It's okay if budgeting has never worked for you. Not everyone finds peace through charts and numbers. Not everyone feels better after writing down what they spent. For some, budgeting brings more stress than calm. And that's a quiet truth most people never say out loud. Maybe you've tried using apps, notebooks, or downloaded templates. Maybe you've made plans to cut back on spending or tried to track every dollar. But after a few days or weeks, the habit slipped. Life got busy. Something unexpected came up. You lost interest, or maybe it just felt too heavy to keep going. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're not bad with money. You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You're human. And this story is for you. This video is not about turning you into a budgeting expert. It's not about getting rich or doing math in your head or never buying coffee again. It's about helping you feel safe and calm when you think about money. You will learn how to build a budget that doesn't make you feel trapped. You'll explore different ways to understand your money, even if you've always avoided looking. You'll hear stories of people who thought budgeting wasn't for them, until they found a way that felt soft enough to stay. By the end of this video, you'll know 3 things. First, you'll understand why most people struggle with budgeting, and why the methods that work for others might not work for you. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding your brain, your habits, and your emotions. Second, you'll learn how to choose a budgeting style that fits your life. Some people need freedom, others need structure. Some need color-coded envelopes, some need reminders. We'll help you find what works for your energy and attention. And third, you'll discover that budgeting is not about control. It's about clarity. It's not about guilt. It's about giving yourself permission to spend, to save, to feel less afraid of money, and more connected to what matters most. This story is soft and slow for a reason. Because most people avoid budgeting at night, and that's often when the worry starts. When the world gets quiet and you're finally alone with your thoughts, you might find yourself thinking about bills, about debt, about goals you haven't reached. That's why this video is here, to keep you company during those quiet moments, to offer answers that feel like comfort, and to help you fall asleep while learning something that could change your life. Not with pressure, not with plans, but with peace. You'll meet characters who remind you of yourself. You'll hear about mistakes that feel familiar. You'll watch how they gently shift their patterns. Not all at once, but over time. You'll hear about the boy who thought budgeting meant giving up fun, and how he learned that setting money aside for joy is just as important as saving. You'll hear about the girl with an unpredictable income, who found a way to feel steady even when her paychecks changed every month. And the friend who thought she was too disorganized to ever stay on track until she made peace with starting small. We won't give you one way to do it. We'll give you options. The goal isn't to copy someone else's system. The goal is to find something that works when you're tired, when you're distracted, when you're scared. Something that still works when you're not at your best. Because budgeting should help you feel more human, not less. If you stay until the end, you'll walk away with a gentle map, a soft framework that fits your emotions, your brain, your life. You'll learn the truth behind common money myths. You'll understand why so many of us give up before we even begin. And you'll leave with a way to try again, without fear of failing this time. So if money has felt confusing, scary, boring, or just too much, stay. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to remember everything. Just listen. Let it wash over you. Let it remind you that you are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply someone who deserves a softer way to manage your money. Take a breath, let your body rest. And when you're ready, we'll begin with Chapter 1. It starts with something very real. Why looking at your money might feel impossible, and how we can gently start to face it together. It's a quiet night, the kind where the light hum of the fridge feels louder than your thoughts. You sit still, your phone face down on the blanket beside you. You know the app is there, the one that holds your bank balance, the one you've been avoiding for days, maybe weeks. And even though part of you wants to check it, a bigger part doesn't. It's not because you don't care. It's because you already carry so much. You're tired, you're anxious. And the idea of seeing the truth feels like too much. You think, what if I already messed it up again? What if I'm spending too much? What if I'll never be good at this? That fear is soft and quiet, but it sticks. It wraps around your chest and makes you feel small. So instead, you scroll. You eat something. You do anything else, because the weight of that unknown number, that account balance, feels heavier than whatever truth it might show. Not knowing feels safer than facing what you fear is already broken. That's the real reason so many people avoid budgeting. Not laziness, not irresponsibility. Fear, shame, and deep exhaustion. Let's say that out loud again, gently. You are not bad at money. You are not failing. You are protecting yourself, the only way you know how, by turning away when it feels too sharp to look. This chapter isn't about fixing that, it's about softening it. We don't need to solve your money tonight. We just want to understand the part of you that's afraid and give that part some safety. Let's imagine someone like you. Her name is Bree. She's 32, lives in a small apartment with 3 different mugs she always forgets to clean. She works 2 part-time jobs. She wants to be better with money, but every time she's tried to start a budget, it felt like she was pretending, like trying on shoes that were never made for her. Bree downloaded for budgeting apps last year. She deleted all of them. Some were too detailed, some were too strict. Some made her feel like she had to explain herself to a robot. When she looked at her expenses, she didn't feel motivated. She felt judged. Even if the app didn't say it, her brain did. You spent too much. You're behind. Why can't you just get it together? So she closed the app and didn't open it again. But here's something you should know. Bree isn't the exception. She's the rule. Most people who try budgeting don't stick with it the first time, or the second, or even the 5th, because most budgeting systems aren't built for people who are already overwhelmed. They're built for people who already feel safe. And safety is the real root of money peace. You can't build a budget on fear. You can't plan ahead if your brain is in survival mode. You can't grow something good while holding your breath. So tonight, we're starting differently. Not with numbers, not with apps, but with a question. When you think about your money, what feeling shows up first? Is it worry? Is it guilt? Is it pressure or confusion? Or a blank fog that makes you want to shut the thought off completely? Whatever it is, we meet it without judgment. That's what budgeting rarely gives you. Emotional space, a space to name what you feel without rushing to change it. A space to be messy, unsure, still learning. Because the truth is, budgeting isn't about knowing everything. It's about making one small choice that helps you feel a little more in control. So let's go back to Bree. One night she sat with her favorite blanket, not ready to look at her bank account, but ready for something. She opened the Notes app on her phone, typed out what she remembered spending that day: $12 on lunch, $4 on parking, $1.38 on groceries. That was it. No budget, no goals, just a gentle record. It didn't feel like a big deal, but the next night, she did it again, and again, and slowly something shifted. She started to see her patterns. Without panic, without shame, because when you meet your money like a friend, it starts to feel less like a fight. She wasn't perfect. Some days she forgot to log anything. Some days she didn't want to see what she'd spent, but each time she came back, it got a little easier. Not because she was fixing it, but because she was facing it, and facing something gently, slowly, is the bravest start of all. So maybe tonight, you don't need to look at your balance. Maybe you just write one sentence. I'm learning to make peace with my money, or I want to feel safe with my spending, or simply, I'm trying. That's budgeting too, because budgeting isn't about numbers. It's about noticing. Noticing where your money goes, noticing how you feel when it leaves, noticing what you want it to do in the future. And all of that can start small. A sticky note, a whisper, a breath. You don't need a plan yet. You just need awareness and compassion. The rest will grow from there. Let's pause here softly. You've already done something big by listening. You've stayed with the part of yourself that usually runs. You've opened a quiet door. And beyond it, there's room for change. Not fast change, not forced change, but soft, human change. The kind that lasts. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who carries a heavy bag of regret. They've made financial mistakes. They've called themselves names, and now they're learning how to set down that weight. Because guilt is not a tool, and shame doesn't make us better. But healing makes budgeting possible. Guilt is heavy, but it doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up as hesitation, as silence, as the quiet moment when you buy something small, then feel bad for hours. Not because of the money, but because of the story that comes after. You might hear it in your head. Why did I do that again? That was dumb. I should know better by now. And slowly, without realizing it, the guilt settles in. It becomes part of your money story. Let's talk about that story. There was a time you didn't know what you know now. You didn't understand interest. You didn't see how fast small charges added up. You were trying to feel better or just keep going. And back then, you did what made sense for that version of you. That version deserves compassion, not shame, not judgment, not punishment that echoes for years. But that's not what most of us were taught. Maybe you learned that mistakes equal failure, that being bad with money means you're bad at life, that overspending is a character flaw, not a coping strategy. So every time you think about budgeting, the guilt bubbles back up. Even before you begin, let me introduce you to someone. His name is Darren. He's 35 and works in customer service. He has old credit card debt he stopped looking at a while ago. He says he feels stuck, even though he works hard, and when he talks about money, he lowers his voice, like it's a secret he's not supposed to have. Darren once bought a pair of shoes he couldn't afford. They were on sale. He told himself he deserved them. He wore them once and returned them out of guilt. But the interest from that card still stayed. Now every time he tries to budget, that memory shows up first, not the numbers. The shame. That one moment didn't define him. That purchase wasn't the problem. It was how he blamed himself afterward, again and again. Because guilt has a way of freezing us. It makes us afraid to open our statements, afraid to check our accounts, afraid to even try again, because what if we fail one more time? But guilt is not a guide. It's a ghost. It reminds you of what already happened, but it doesn't help you move forward. It keeps you locked in old stories that no longer match who you're becoming. And the truth is, you're allowed to outgrow those stories. Let's do something gentle right now. Close your eyes, if that feels safe. Picture the version of you who made that financial mistake, the one who overspent, or missed a bill, or ignored something for too long. What would you say to them now? Maybe you'd say, "I understand why you did that," or "You were doing your best," or "I forgive you." That's the start of a new kind of budgeting. One that begins with release, not restriction. One that sees your past without weaponizing it. He started keeping a small journal, not of numbers, but of feelings. Every time he spent money, he wrote how he felt afterward. Not to punish himself, but to get curious. And in that curiosity, he found patterns. He wasn't spending to be reckless. He was spending to feel seen, to feel control, to feel relief, because money is emotional, and emotions don't always follow logic. But once he saw the pattern, he could start making choices. Not from guilt, but from understanding. Budgeting stopped being about rules. What brought real peace, not just distraction. You can do this too. You can forgive yourself for what you didn't know. You can soften the voice in your head. You can build a budget that holds space for your healing, even if you're still figuring it out, especially then. Budgeting doesn't have to begin with a spreadsheet. It can begin with grace. And grace might sound like this: I'm not proud of everything, but I'm proud I'm still trying. I don't need to be perfect to pay attention. I can learn without punishing myself. Let those words settle in. Let them take up space where guilt used to live. Let them breathe. Because when guilt leaves, growth can enter, and growth doesn't rush. It moves slowly, like water softening a stone. It happens in small, quiet moments, like this one. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who's been trying to follow all the budgeting advice online, but still feels lost, because not all advice works for all brains. And sometimes, the hardest part is not knowing what to ignore. Together, we'll explore how information overload keeps us stuck, and how choosing less can sometimes help us build more. Some nights, information feels heavier than silence. You try to do what they say you're supposed to do. You Google best budget method and find 50 answers, zero-based envelope system, 50 minus 30 minus 20. Pick this app, don't pick that one. Automate, don't automate. You read list after list, watch video after video, and somewhere in the noise, you start to feel smaller. Like everyone else knows a secret you missed, like you're the only one who still doesn't get it. Let's say this clearly. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are flooded. And that is not the same thing. Advice can be helpful, but too much advice, especially when you're already overwhelmed, becomes a fog. It can make you freeze. Because when you don't know which way to go, you stop moving entirely. Let's meet someone who's been here. Her name is Maya. She's 27 and works in graphic design. She loves checklists and planners, but they don't always love her back. Every time she sets a money goal, she finds a new blog post that tells her she's doing it wrong. She tried tracking every expense for 30 days. She tried building categories in 6 different colors. She followed one influencer who told her to stop buying coffee. another who said to invest right now, another who said she needed a side hustle immediately. Maya tried to follow them all and ended up doing nothing. Because she was so busy absorbing what everyone else said, she couldn't hear her own voice anymore. That's something we all go through. We think more information will make us feel safe, but often it just makes us feel confused, especially when the advice doesn't match our reality. Maybe your income isn't regular. Maybe you don't want 5 bank accounts. Maybe your brain works differently. You forget things, or lose focus, or need systems that don't require daily check-ins. That's okay. Budgeting isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's not a game you win by picking the right formula. It's a relationship. And relationships thrive on communication, not rules. Let's go back to Maya. After trying every method and still feeling stuck, she tried something different. She asked herself one question. What's one thing I can track that feels helpful, not stressful? She realized she liked knowing how often she spent money on food, not to feel bad, but to notice patterns. So she made a food mood tracker. Each time she bought food, she logged what she ate and how she felt. Pizza on Tuesday, tired and sad. Homemade soup on Friday, proud and calm. Snack run after work, anxious and rushed. This wasn't a budget in the traditional sense, but it helped her see something. She wasn't bad with money. She was using money to manage emotions. And once she saw that, she could start asking different questions. Do I want to spend this? Or do I just need a break? Would rest give me more peace than this purchase? That's real budgeting, not just tracking dollars, but tracking your heart. And to do that, sometimes you have to tune out the noise. You have to unsubscribe from the idea that there's only one right way. You have to stop measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel. You have to remember, budgeting is a conversation, not a competition. So, if you've been feeling lost in advice, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what do I want my money to help me feel? Because that's the beginning of a budget that fits. A budget that honors your pace, your needs, your seasons. You don't need to follow 10 rules at once. You need one gentle rhythm that makes sense to your life. And that rhythm can change because you will change. Your priorities will shift, your needs will evolve, and your budget should evolve with you. That's not failure, that's growth. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who struggles with focus. They've been told 100 times to just be consistent. But consistency feels impossible when your brain is always bouncing. We'll explore how budgeting can work for people with ADHD, high stress, or low energy. Because mental bandwidth is real, and your system should make room for it. Some people don't struggle with money because they're careless. They struggle because their brain moves differently. Because remembering to check a budgeting app every night feels impossible. Because sitting down to plan next month's bills feels like trying to climb a mountain in socks. Because executive function is not the same as motivation. You might wake up with the best intentions. Today will be different, you tell yourself, but by 2 p.m., life has already pulled your attention in 10 directions. Your energy is low, your to-do list is blurry, and the last thing you want to do is open another tab labeled Finance. That doesn't make you bad with money. That makes you someone whose brain is doing a lot to survive. And sometimes, survival mode doesn't leave much room for systems, especially ones that feel like homework. Or worse, punishment. Let's meet someone who understands this. His name is Eli. He's 30 and was diagnosed with ADHD at 27. Before that, he just thought he was forgetful, messy, and lazy, the words people used to describe him when he missed things. But once he understood how his brain worked, so much of his struggle started to make sense. Eli had tried every budgeting method. He loved making the systems, he just never stuck with them. He'd spend 3 hours color-coding categories, setting reminders, even naming his savings folders fun things like vacation vibes and pizza fund. But within 2 weeks, it would all fall apart. And each time it did, Eli felt more ashamed, more certain that he was just someone who could never be good with money. But the truth was, the systems weren't broken, they just weren't built for him. People with ADHD aren't bad at planning. They're overwhelmed by how to start, by how many steps it takes to finish, by how easy it is to forget that a system even exists when it's not right in front of them. And budgeting often lives in apps and spreadsheets, places that don't feel natural to go to when your brain is overloaded. So Eli tried something new. Instead of building a perfect plan, he built a reminder to remember. He set a sticky note on his bathroom mirror that said, "Money check-in," 5 minutes. That was it. He didn't open a spreadsheet. He didn't track every penny. He just looked at his bank app once a day. Not to judge, but to notice. And because the reminder was somewhere he already looked every day, he didn't forget. Over time, that little routine became part of his rhythm. He also learned another trick. When something felt too big, like planning a monthly budget, he broke it into 5-minute steps. 5 minutes to list the bills coming up. 5 minutes to highlight any big purchases that might be coming. 5 minutes to glance at his account balances. That's it. No pressure to do it all at once, just one moment at a time. This made budgeting feel more like brushing his teeth than taking a test. It became part of his self-care, not his self-criticism. If you've ever felt like budgeting is too hard to stick with, you're not alone, and your difficulty isn't a flaw. It's an invitation to build a system that meets you where you are. Here's something you can try. Instead of tracking everything, track just one thing each day. Maybe it's your balance. Maybe it's what you spent on food. Maybe it's a feeling. Today, I felt good about money. Or today, I felt anxious. That's a budget too. A budget of awareness, a budget of patterns, a budget that starts with observation, not restriction. And if you forget a day, that's okay. Forgetfulness is not failure. It's just part of the pattern. And patterns can be worked with, not punished. Another gentle trick, pair money moments with something you already do. Maybe every time you make your morning coffee, you look at your balance. Maybe every Sunday night, you light a candle and ask, what's coming up this week financially? These small rituals create connection. They make budgeting part of your life instead of a task you dread. And most importantly, they help your brain remember. Because memory isn't always about willpower, it's about systems that feel safe and visible. You deserve a system that doesn't shame you, that doesn't require perfection, that doesn't collapse the moment you're tired or distracted or human. Eli still forgets things. He still makes mistakes. But now, he forgives himself faster. He comes back to his system because it's gentle, because it makes him feel cared for, not criticized. So let's say this together. You are not too scattered to budget. You are not too inconsistent. You are not to anything. You are just someone who needs a softer starting point. And that point can be as small as one sticky note. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who's tried budgeting with a partner and discovered how hard it is to share money when your habits don't match. We'll talk about communication, compromise, and how budgeting becomes more complicated, but also more meaningful when love is involved. Money doesn't just live in your wallet, it lives between people. In quiet glances at the grocery store, in late-night check-ins after rent clears. In the space between, we're okay. And I don't want to fight about this again. Budgeting alone is already hard. But budgeting in a relationship, that's a whole new level of emotion. Because it's not just your habits anymore, it's your partner's stories and yours tangled together. Some people grew up thinking budgeting meant control. Others saw it as survival. And some were never taught anything about money at all, only that it was either there or it wasn't. So when two people fall in love, they often bring more than feelings. They bring patterns they don't even realize they have. Let's meet Jamie and Avery. Jamie likes to track things. They feel calm when they know what's coming, what's due, what's left. They're not trying to be controlling. They just feel safer when the money is mapped. Avery, on the other hand, avoids anything that smells like restriction. They say, budgeting makes me feel like I'm suffocating. Neither of them is wrong. But they've been fighting lately, not in big dramatic ways, just little things. Jamie sighing when Avery forgets to log a payment. Avery shutting down when Jamie brings up budgeting again. There's love here, but also fear. Because money isn't neutral. It touches all the soft spots: power, trust, safety. And when those spots aren't spoken about, they show up as tension. One night, they try something different. Jamie puts the spreadsheets away. Avery agrees to talk, not about dollars, but about feelings. Jamie says, "When I budget, I feel like I can breathe." Avery replies, "When I budget, I feel like I'm failing before I start." And there it is, the truth behind the behaviors. Not just preference, but emotional history. Budgeting isn't just about income and expenses. It's about nervous systems. It's about what happens in your body when you hear the word money. For some, it's calm. For others, it's panic. And in relationships, those differences matter more than any app. So Jamie and Avery make a new rule. No talking about numbers until they talk about emotions. Every Sunday night, or whatever night feels calm, they ask each other one question. What do you need this week to feel okay financially? Some weeks, Avery says, I need to not talk about it at all, and Jamie respects that. Other weeks, Jamie says, I just need to know we'll have enough for groceries, and Avery makes a note to check the account. Small exchanges, big healing. They also build what they call their money rituals, not budgets, not plans. Just soft actions they do together. Lighting a candle before a check-in, sitting on the floor instead of at the desk, breathing before opening the bank app, because sometimes the container matters more than the content, and safety is created, not assumed. Budgeting with a partner often fails because we skip the emotions. We talk about numbers before trust. We make assumptions before asking questions. We act from fear instead of curiosity. If you and your partner argue about money, that doesn't mean you're incompatible. It means you've both been hurt by money before. It means you're both trying to protect yourselves in different ways. And protection looks different, depending on the wound. For some, it's control. For others, it's avoidance. The way through is empathy. Try this. Instead of saying, we need to stop spending, try asking, what does spending give you in that moment? Instead of saying, why can't you just stick to the budget? Try, what part of this system feels stressful to you? Let each other answer without interruption. Let the silence hang a little longer than you normally would, because sometimes the real answer is hiding behind the first one. And sometimes love sounds like listening. Jamie and Avery still mess up. They still forget things, still disagree. But now, there's more grace, more we in their choices, even when things go off track. They've learned that a shared budget isn't about sameness. It's about rhythm. Not who spends what, but how you return to center together. Sometimes that looks like splitting accounts. Sometimes it's a joint one with 2 personal ones on the side. There is no correct structure, only what makes your nervous systems feel less tight. Only what helps you move through the world with softness. And if you're not partnered right now, this still matters. Because how you imagine budgeting with someone is shaped by how you've seen it done before, by what you witnessed growing up, by what you fear losing if someone sees the full picture. So take time to reflect. What does financial vulnerability mean to you? What are you afraid your partner might think if they knew everything? And what do you wish someone had taught you about shared money before now? Those are tender questions. They deserve tender answers. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone navigating budgeting without a steady paycheck. They've always believed budgeting only works when income is predictable. But what they'll discover is something many never hear. Budgets don't have to be fixed. They can flow with you. There's a different kind of pressure when your income changes every month. It's not just the money, it's the waiting. Waiting for the next job, the next invoice, the next little sign that you'll be okay for now. Some people are paid on the same day every 2 weeks. They know exactly what's coming and when. But when your income is unpredictable, budgeting feels like trying to plan a road trip without knowing how much gas is in the car. And every bump in the road feels bigger. Let's meet someone who knows this well. Her name is Lonnie. She's a freelance photographer. Some months, she books for weddings. Other months, just one family shoot, if that. She never really knows what her bank account will look like until she's already in the middle of the month. People told her to just make a budget, to live below your means. But how do you do that when your means are always moving? The truth is, most traditional budgets are built for predictability, for regular hours and steady paychecks. But that's not everyone's life. And that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means you need a system that bends. Lonnie used to write her budgets in panic. She'd sit down after getting paid and try to map out the whole month. But it never worked, because 2 weeks later, something unexpected always showed up, and she'd feel like she failed again. So she stopped budgeting for the month and started budgeting by buckets. Here's how it worked. Every time she got paid, she split the money into 4 soft categories: needs, wants, safety, and stretch. Needs were things like groceries, rent, gas. Wants were comfort items, takeout, streaming, little joys. Safety was for the slower months, her growing emergency fund. Stretch was for dreams, buying a new camera, taking a break. She didn't set hard numbers, she just set intentions. Some months, most of the money went to needs and safety. Other months, when work was good, she let a little more flow to stretch. This wasn't a fixed plan. It was a flexible rhythm, and it let her feel safe without needing certainty. That's something no one talks about. Budgeting isn't just a plan, it's a feeling, and people with irregular income don't need more pressure. they need more grace. So, how do you begin when you don't know what's coming? Try this gentle approach. First, know your baseline. What are your non-negotiables, the expenses that must be covered for you to feel okay? List them: rent, food, minimum bills. Don't worry about the extras yet, just the bones. Then, make a bare minimum budget. This is the budget you build not for the best month, but for the quietest one. The one where money is tight. The one where you're just holding it together. This budget becomes your anchor. And any income above that, that's where you start to soften. Because budgeting with a regular income is like dancing with the tide. You learn to move with it, not against it. Some weeks you stretch, some weeks you shrink, but always you breathe. Lonnie also created a pause ritual. Every time she got paid, she didn't spend it right away. She gave it one night. She called it the 24-hour drift. She'd let the money land in her account. She'd take a breath. She'd ask herself, what does this check want to do for me? Not just what do I owe, but how can this money care for me this month? That one question changed her entire relationship with budgeting, because it reminded her that she wasn't just surviving, she was choosing. And choice is what brings back the calm. You can try that too. Give your money a place to land. Not a task, just a space. Let it settle, let it speak. Then decide what to do with it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know what next month looks like. You just need to listen, to trust your rhythm, to give your money and yourself room to move. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who used to believe they were just bad with money. They've tried and failed so many times, they've stopped trusting themselves. But what if budgeting wasn't about willpower, but about self-trust? There's a sentence that lives in a lot of people's heads. You might have whispered it to yourself. You might have said it with a shrug or a sad smile. It sounds small, but it carries weight. I'm just bad with money. Not bad like evil, bad like helpless, like no matter what you try, you'll mess it up. Like money is a puzzle you were never given the pieces for, so you stop trying to solve it. This belief doesn't show up overnight. It grows over time. From missed payments, from bank fees that hit you when you weren't looking, from the quiet shame of feeling like the only adult who hasn't figured this out. Let's meet someone who knows that feeling. His name is Devin. He's 29 and works full-time, but still lives paycheck to paycheck. He's smart, thoughtful, funny, but every time money comes up, he checks out. He says, I just don't get it. I'm not wired for this. He believes budgeting is for people who are more disciplined, more organized, more responsible. He sees his past mistakes like a trail of proof, and every overdraft becomes another stamp on the belief. See, I told you I was bad at this. But here's what Devin doesn't know yet. Being bad with money isn't a personality trait. It's a story, and stories can change. Let's go back a little. Devin grew up in a house where money was tense. Conversations about bills ended in arguments. There was never enough, and when he asked questions, the answer was always, don't worry about it. So he learned early that money was something scary, something kept behind closed doors, something that made people angry or sad. And when he got his first paycheck, no one told him what to do with it. They just said, be smart. What does smart mean when you've never been taught? What does budgeting look like when you've only ever seen struggle? Devin did what many do, he guessed. He copied what he saw online. He tried apps, read blogs, made a spreadsheet, but none of it stuck, because no one had shown him how to connect budgeting with feeling safe. That's the real skill most people are missing. Not math, not discipline, but safety. So Devin started somewhere new. He took a blank notebook and wrote a letter to money. Not a budget, not a plan, a letter. It started with, I don't know how to talk to you then. I want to feel safe with you. And finally, I don't want to be afraid of you anymore. That letter didn't fix his finances, but it cracked something open. It let in softness, because the belief I'm bad with money can only survive in silence. Once you start speaking with kindness, the belief starts to dissolve. Devon also made a tiny shift in language. Instead of saying, I'm bad with money, he started saying, I'm learning how I relate to money. That change was small, but it mattered. It gave him permission to grow, to try again, to mess up without quitting, because progress doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it just looks like coming back. Devin created a 2-part ritual. Once a week, he'd do a 5-minute money check, not to control, just to notice. Then he'd say out loud, I am allowed to try again. That was it. And over time, that small act, Noticing and forgiving became his new budget, not a list of numbers, but a rhythm of self-trust. You can do that too. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to get it right today. You just have to stay with yourself. You are not bad with money. You are someone who hasn't been given the space, tools, or support to build trust with it yet. And that's not your fault, but it is within your power to shift. Start with your story. Write it down. Say it out loud. Name the moments where the belief began. And ask, is this story still true? Then ask, what story do I want to live instead? You can write that too. You're not behind. You're on a slower road, but slow doesn't mean lost. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who realized that budgeting had become about punishment, not peace. They used to think budgeting meant cutting everything that made life joyful. But what if joy is part of the plan? Budgeting is supposed to help. That's what everyone says. But if we're being honest, sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes budgeting feels like a slow punishment you give yourself for not being perfect, a way to measure how far behind you are, not how far you've come. You sit down to plan. You try to be good. You cut out coffee, cancel subscriptions, delete apps. You turn your life into a checklist of don'ts. And somehow you feel worse, because deep down, you weren't trying to thrive, you were trying to atone. For past overspending, for missed bills, for all the times you tried and failed. So the budget becomes a penance, not a plan. Let's meet someone stuck in that loop. Her name is Sienna. She's thoughtful, self-aware, hardworking, and she's been budgeting like it's a punishment for most of her adult life. Every time things feel out of control, she creates a new plan, a strict one, a clean one, a serious one. No takeout, no new clothes, no room for mistakes, and for a little while, it works. She feels proud of herself, like she's finally doing it right. But then, life gets lifey. She has a bad day and spends, maybe it's Thai food after a stressful shift, or a random grocery splurge just to feel something warm, and then it hits. That drop in her chest, that voice that whispers, you failed again. That's the cycle so many of us fall into. Budget, restrict, break, shame, quit, repeat. We think if we just had more willpower, we'd stick to the plan. But maybe the problem isn't our willpower. Maybe it's the plan. Maybe the plan forgot we were human, because you can't punish yourself into peace. Sienna finally learned this the night she cried over a $9 burrito. Not because of the money, but because of what she told herself after buying it. That she was irresponsible, that she had no control, that she would never get it right. But something softened in her that night. She realized she wasn't angry about the spending. She was grieving her own tenderness, the part of her that needed comfort and got shamed for it. So she made a new rule. Her budget would include joy on purpose. She started small, $25 a week, labeled permission to breathe. She could use it for anything that made her feel safe, seen, or soothed. Sometimes it was a coffee. Sometimes it was a silly sticker pack for her planner. Sometimes it was doing absolutely nothing and ordering food with zero guilt. That tiny joy line changed everything, because now she wasn't breaking her budget when she spent for comfort. She was honoring it, and in doing so, she was honoring herself. You see, joy is not optional. It's not the reward for getting everything right. It's the fuel for trying again. When your budget makes room for joy, you stop swinging between extremes. You don't need to rebel against restriction. You don't need to overcompensate after being too good. You just live gently, sustainably, kindly. Let's pause here. What does joy look like for you? Not big, expensive things, tiny things, real things, things you might feel guilty about, but keep coming back to anyway. Write them down in your mind. Now imagine a budget that protects those joys instead of cutting them. How would that feel? Sienna's budget now has a category called Small Soft Things, and another one called Moments of Relief. She doesn't need to justify them. They're part of her healing, part of why she doesn't give up anymore. It's not that she stopped tracking, it's that she started noticing. She noticed that when her life had no softness, her spending became impulsive. She noticed that when her budget included breathing room, she felt less afraid of it. She noticed that kindness worked better than control. You can do this too. You can start by asking, what would a compassionate budget look like for me? Maybe it includes a weekly ritual, like lighting a candle while reviewing your spending. Maybe it means setting aside $10 a week for your emotional first aid kit. Maybe it means giving yourself a no questions asked fund just because you're alive. There's no right answer, only what makes your nervous system say, I can stay with this, because that's the real point. To build something you can return to, even when you mess up, especially then. Budgets that punish don't last, but budgets that comfort, those become companions. And if you're still thinking, but won't this make me spend more? Let me offer this. When you plan for joy, you spend with intention. You don't have to sneak it in. You don't have to binge it. You don't have to explain it to anyone. You just trust that you are allowed to enjoy your life. And slowly, budgeting becomes less like a cage and more like a nest, a place to land, a place to rest, a place that holds your needs and your tenderness in the same space. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who's never tracked their spending. Not because they're careless, but because every time they try, it feels like surveillance, like judgment, like they're not allowed to make mistakes. But what if tracking wasn't about control? What if it was about curiosity? Some people love tracking their spending. They get satisfaction from watching the numbers add up, from knowing exactly where every penny goes. They feel safe when everything is in order. But not everyone feels that way. For others, tracking doesn't feel like control. It feels like watching, like there's a spotlight on every choice. Like one small slip will be held against them. Like their bank app is a report card, and they're already failing. Not because of the math, but because of the shame. Let's meet someone who feels that way. His name is Marco. He's 26 and works hourly shifts at 2 different places. He's smart, capable, kind. But every time someone says, track your spending, he freezes, because he's tried, and every time, it made him feel worse. Marco once spent 3 hours setting up a fancy budgeting app. He categorized everything, labeled it all. He felt proud until he bought fast food after work. The app instantly flagged it as unnecessary. A bright red bar, a warning, a signal, you did something wrong. That wasn't a learning moment, it was a shutdown. The red bar didn't say, you're paying attention. It said, you're failing again. And Marco, like many of us, had already heard that message enough. So he closed the app and didn't open it again, because tracking for him didn't feel like awareness. It felt like judgment. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Tracking is not neutral, it's emotional. It carries all the stories we've been told about right and wrong, spending. And when you already feel behind, those stories hit hard. But what if we redefine tracking? Not as surveillance, not as self-criticism, but as gentle noticing. Let's go back to Marco. Eventually, he tried something new. He got a small notebook, nothing fancy. And instead of logging dollars, he logged moments. Every time he spent money, he wrote 3 things. What he bought, why he bought it. How he felt after? That's it. No categories, no judgment. Just stories. He wrote, $7 boba tea, needed a treat after a hard shift, felt calm. $13 lunch out, forgot to pack food, felt rushed and annoyed. $0 stayed home, made pasta, felt proud and rested. At first, it felt silly, but slowly, it became a window into his patterns. Not in a shaming way, in a caring way. He noticed when he spent most impulsively. He noticed what purchases brought peace. He noticed when he used spending to soothe stress and when it worked. This wasn't tracking to control. It was tracking to understand. Marco called it his money mood journal, and it changed how he saw his spending, not as success or failure, but as signals. Signals that helped him take care of himself better. You can try this too. Start with 1 week. Every time you spend, write down what you spent, what was going on emotionally, how you feel about it now. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to log everything. You don't even need to total it up. This isn't math, it's mindfulness. And the goal isn't to eliminate spending. It's to notice when it's helping and when it's hurting. Because that's what budgeting really is. Not a punishment, not a perfect system, but a practice of paying attention. Kind attention. Marco still struggles sometimes. He still forgets to log things. He still gets overwhelmed. But now, he doesn't spiral. He returns to curiosity. Because the opposite of shame isn't pride. It's presence. It's staying with yourself even when things are messy. It's saying, this is what happened, and I'm still here. So if tracking has felt too hard, too harsh, too heavy, try changing the frame. Track feelings, track energy. Track what feels safe and what feels scary. Let your money journal be a mirror, not a megaphone. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who equated saving money with suffering, who believed that if they weren't struggling, they weren't doing it right. But what if saving could feel soft? For some people, saving money feels good. It feels safe, empowering, like a cozy blanket for their future self. But for others, saving feels like giving something up, like shrinking, like sacrificing today in the hope that tomorrow might be easier. Let's talk about that second feeling, the quiet grief that comes with saving. The way it can feel like withholding life from yourself, especially if you've spent years feeling like you never get to enjoy things. Like saving is just another way to say, not for you, not yet. Let's meet someone who knows that tension well. Her name is Amira. She's in her early 30s, works hard, and has finally started earning more than just enough. But every time she tries to save, it feels like she's betraying herself. She sets money aside and then immediately wants to undo it. Not because she doesn't care about the future, but because the past has taught her that joy is fragile. Amira grew up in a household where money was tight, so when something good came along, a new toy, a pizza night, a vacation, it always came with strings. Guilt, worry, fear that the money wouldn't stretch. She learned early that joy was fleeting, and saving meant less joy now. So as an adult, when she tried to be responsible, she felt like she was reliving that childhood script, sacrificing, tightening, never fully at ease. That's the thing no one tells you. Saving money is not just a habit, it's an emotional decision. It requires a belief in your own future. It requires trust that the care you give yourself today will actually show up later. And if life has taught you that nothing is guaranteed, that's a hard thing to believe. So Amira stopped trying to save the right way. Instead, she asked, what would it look like to save with softness? She started small, not by setting strict goals, not by building emergency funds overnight. She began with a jar. She called it the Tiny Trust Fund. Every week, she added just $5, a little bill, a coin, whatever she had. She didn't label it as savings. She called it a gift to her future self, a kind, quiet offering. She even wrote herself notes to go with the money. I hope this helps you breathe. Buy something warm with this. You don't have to earn rest. It's yours already. The jar filled slowly, but something deeper was growing too. A relationship, one where saving wasn't about what she couldn't do, but about what she deserved. She started creating categories that felt gentle. Soft landing fund for when things fall apart. Bright future fund for possibilities she hasn't even dreamed of yet. Gratitude fund, just for giving when she could. And every time she added to one of those, she didn't feel deprived. She felt cared for, like she was slowly becoming someone she could rely on. That's the quiet magic of saving when it's done from love. Not out of fear, not because you should, but because your future self is not a stranger. She's someone worth holding. Let's pause here and ask, what does your future self need? Not just financially, emotionally. What could you give her? Gently, starting today. Maybe it's $2 a week in a glass jar. Maybe it's a note in your wallet that says, you're allowed to have peace. Maybe it's saying, I forgive myself for what I didn't save before. You're not behind. You're just learning how to make safety feel familiar. Saving doesn't have to hurt to work. It doesn't have to be a lonely act. It can be a ritual, a kindness, a slow-building promise that you will show up for yourself again. Amira still adds to her jar. Some weeks it's a little, some weeks nothing. But she no longer sees saving as a threat to her joy. She sees it as a quiet act of faith. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who thought budgeting was just for bills and goals. But then they discovered something surprising. Budgeting could be used to grow joy. For a long time, budgeting was only about survival. It was a tool to stop the bleeding, to stay afloat, to avoid disaster. It wasn't something you loved, just something you needed. But what if budgeting could be something more? What if it wasn't just about bills and goals and responsibilities? What if it could grow something beautiful, something joyful, something that didn't just prevent pain, but created pleasure? That's what this chapter is about. Let's meet someone who stumbled into that shift. Her name is Tara. She's 36, has a full-time job, and has always been okay with money. Not amazing, not terrible, just okay. She paid her bills. She had some savings. She didn't overspend. But she didn't feel connected to her budget. It felt like brushing her teeth, necessary, not exciting. Then one weekend, something changed. Tara was cleaning out her closet and found an old notebook. Inside was a list of things she wanted to do someday. One of them said, "Take a pottery class." She smiled, then frowned, because she remembered writing that list 5 years ago. She still hadn't done it. Not because she couldn't afford it, but because she never made space for it. It always felt like an extra. And budgeting to her had always been about cutting extras. But that night, she asked herself a new question. What if I used my budget to make room for this? Not just allow it, but plan for it, like planting a seed in a garden. That's when Tara's joy budgeting journey began. She opened a fresh spreadsheet and gave it a new name, the garden. Each category became a type of plant. Essentials were her roots. Joy was her wildflowers. Dreams were her fruit trees. And gifts to others, her pollinators. She even changed her monthly review to a new phrase. What grew this month? Suddenly, budgeting didn't feel cold. It felt alive. She started planting. She set aside $20 each week for creative classes. She named it Clay and Color. After 2 months, she signed up for that pottery class. And when she walked into the studio, messy bun, clay-covered hands, laughing with strangers, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride, not the pressure kind, the soft kind. The kind that says, "Look what I made room for." Tara didn't stop there. She added a spontaneous picnic fund, just $10 a month for random snacks and park days. A silly treats envelope for bookmarks, stickers, fun socks, a someday soon fund for big hopes she didn't want to forget again. Her budget became less like a rule book and more like a map of her actual, joyful life. A record of what mattered, of what felt good, of what she chose on purpose. She even tracked her feelings, not just numbers. Every time she spent, she wrote a single word in her notes. Calm, anxious, playful, proud. It became a reflection tool, a way to ask, what's blooming here? Joy became part of the strategy, not just the reward. Here's what Tara learned. You don't need a lot of money to budget for joy. You just need permission. Permission to value the things that light you up. To see beauty as part of your financial well-being. To believe that money can support your aliveness, not mute it. So let's pause for you. What's your version of a pottery class? Not something expensive? Not something for Instagram. Just a small, meaningful thing you keep pushing to later. Maybe it's fresh flowers at the farmer's market. Maybe it's art supplies. Maybe it's donating to a cause that makes your chest feel warm. Maybe it's building a tiny home library. Or saving up for a train ride to see a friend. Whatever it is, ask yourself, can I plant this in my budget? Not as a one-time treat, but as part of your life's rhythm. And if you're thinking, but I have to focus on debt, bills, survival, yes, of course, those are roots. But every plant needs more than roots. It needs light, water, air. You deserve more than just enough. You deserve softness, color, joy. Even a $5 joy fund matters. Even one budget line that says for delight makes a difference. Because budgeting isn't just about restraint, it's about resourcing yourself, about giving your future more than numbers, giving it meaning. Tara's garden budget didn't erase all stress, but it changed her relationship with money. She stopped seeing budgeting as a battle and started seeing it as a tending practice. Now, at the end of each month, she writes in her journal, what did I grow with my money this month? Sometimes it's a class, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's just proof that she can choose things that feel good and stay well. So here's your invitation. Plant something joyful in your budget this month. Name it, nurture it, water it, and when it blooms, even just a little smile. Because budgeting doesn't have to be a pruning tool, it can be a garden. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who avoided looking at their account balance, not because they were irresponsible, but because they were afraid of what it might mean about them. But what if your bank balance isn't a reflection of your worth? There's a moment some people know too well. You open your banking app, your thumb hovers, your stomach tightens. You're not checking a number, you're bracing for judgment. It doesn't matter what the balance is. Whether it's high or low, it feels like a reflection of you, a quiet report card, a silent measure of your worth. Let's talk about that fear, the fear of looking, of facing, of confirming the story in your head, the one that says, I'm behind, I'm bad at this, I've failed again. Meet Jordan. They're 31, work freelance, and have good months and tough months. But even in the good months, they avoid checking their balance. They say it makes their chest tighten, makes them feel exposed, like the number is watching them back. Jordan once told a friend, I'd rather not know than feel disappointed, because every time they checked, The number seemed to whisper, "See, you're not doing enough." But that whisper was never about money. It was about shame. Because checking your balance can feel like confronting your whole money story. The mistakes, the missed chances, the things you wish someone had taught you earlier. And sometimes it just feels easier to look away. Until one day, Jordan was at a coffee shop and their card declined. It wasn't a huge deal, just a tech glitch, but they panicked. And in that moment, they realized, avoidance doesn't protect you, it just delays the fear. So Jordan decided to build a new ritual, one that wouldn't make checking their balance feel like punishment. One that could help them approach their money with softness, not judgment, not urgency, not fear. Here's what they tried. Every Sunday, they picked a cozy moment. No pressure, no noise, just a warm drink, a blanket, and their favorite playlist. They called it their balance check tea time. They'd open their banking app, take a deep breath, and whisper to themselves, "This number does not define me." Some weeks, the number brought relief. Some weeks, anxiety. But each time, they stayed. They didn't run. And little by little, that made all the difference. They added a journal. Next to the number, they wrote how they felt, not just what they saw. Anxious, but trying. Okay today, scared, but I'm here. That became the win, not the amount. But the act of staying with themselves, no matter what. You can try this too, not a big overhaul. Just a new rhythm, a new way to be with your money that doesn't make you flinch. Choose a soft moment, maybe after dinner, maybe on a quiet morning. Create comfort music, tea lighting. Then check in, not as a critic, but as a companion. Look at the number, breathe. Notice what rises, and say, this is just information. I am still worthy, because your balance is not your identity. It's not your intelligence. It's not your goodness. It's just a snapshot, a number that changes, and you are allowed to change too. Jordan still gets nervous sometimes, still forgets, still feels the flutter, but they've learned to meet it with a whisper, not a scream. And that whisper says, we're okay, we're learning. You are not the sum of your spending. You are not the mistakes you've made. You are not your overdraft fees. You are not your debt. You are a human being, trying, growing, still here. And that matters more than any dollar amount. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who finally asked for help with money. After years of believing they had to figure it all out alone, because budgeting is hard, but budgeting in isolation, that's even harder. There's a kind of silence that grows around money. It starts small, a missed bill, a maxed out card, a balance you don't want to talk about. You tell yourself you'll figure it out, that it's just a rough patch, that you'll get caught up next month. And little by little, the silence grows louder. Until you're alone with it, let's meet someone in that silence. Her name is Camila. She's 34, a single mom, and works full-time. She keeps a lot inside, not because she doesn't care, but because she thinks she has to. She believes being strong means not asking. Camila has always been the reliable one, the helper, the friend with the snacks, the coworker who covers shifts. But inside, she's been carrying a quiet storm. For months, her budget hasn't been working. The math never adds up. She tries to stretch every dollar, cancels subscriptions, packs every lunch. But still, she ends most months holding her breath. She tells herself, I should know how to do this, because no one around her talks about struggling. They all seem fine, and so she stays quiet. Until one day, the stress cracks open. It's a Thursday afternoon. She's late on rent, her kid is growing out of shoes, and the grocery list feels like a mountain. She's sitting in her car, scrolling through her banking app, trying to find anything to move around. And she just can't. She feels it in her chest, that tight, heavy, kind of tired. So she texts her sister. Can we talk about something money-related? I'm kind of drowning. It's only one sentence. But it's the bravest thing she's done in months. Her sister replies, come over. I've been there too. They sit on the couch that night with tea and a notebook. Camila cries. Her sister listens. And for the first time in a long time, the shame begins to loosen. They look at the numbers together. No judgment, no fixing, just witnessing. Her sister shares stories Camila never knew. About the time she overdrafted 3 times in a week. About the panic of choosing between bills and birthday gifts. About how hard it was to finally talk to someone about it. Camila learned something she never expected. She's not alone, not even close. And in that moment, budgeting becomes less scary. Not because it's easy now, but because she doesn't have to do it in silence. They create a soft plan, not a perfect one, a gentle one. They list expenses, brainstorm support, make a few calls to see what can be delayed or reduced. They even make a shared spreadsheet called Hopeful Steps. That night, Camila goes to bed with the same amount in her account, but she sleeps better because money isn't a secret anymore. It's a story she's allowed to tell. Here's the truth. You don't have to figure it all out alone. You're allowed to ask for help, even if it feels embarrassing, even if you think you should know better, even if your past says, keep this to yourself. Sometimes help is a friend. Sometimes it's a non-profit financial coach. Sometimes it's a helpline or a sliding scale therapist. Sometimes it's just saying out loud, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to try. Asking for help isn't weakness. It's resourcefulness. It's resilience. It's saying, I'm ready to make this kinder. If you're listening to this and money feels heavy, consider this your permission. To send that text, to Google that resource, to ask one small question, you are not broken. You are not a failure. You are not the only one who doesn't have it all together. You're human, and humans are meant to be held. In the next chapter, we'll meet someone who thought budgeting was about getting it right. Every dollar in place, every rule followed, but then they discovered something softer. That mistakes are part of the path. There's a moment we've all felt. You swipe your card without thinking. You open a bill you forgot was due. You overdraft. You overspend. You overpromise. And you whisper to yourself, I messed up again. It's the again that hurts the most. Because mistakes aren't new. They're familiar. You've made them before, maybe last month, maybe last week. And each time you thought, this time I'll do better. But then life lifed, and now here you are. Let's meet someone in that space. His name is Eli. He's thoughtful, creative, and has been trying to stick to a budget for years. Not just to be better, but to feel less afraid. He's read the books, tried the apps, even made a color-coded spreadsheet once. But last night, he bought something off budget. Again, just a video game, something small, but the spiral started fast. Why did I do that? I'll never be consistent. This is why I can't trust myself. Eli didn't just see a $60 charge. He saw a personal failure. Because for him, money mistakes don't stay on the screen. They echo in his self-worth. But here's what Eli hadn't learned yet. Mistakes are part of the path, not signs you're off it. Budgeting is not a test you pass. It's a rhythm you return to. And part of rhythm is missing a beat. Eli started writing down his money mistakes. Not to punish himself, but to see them clearly. Each one got a line in a soft leather journal. Not as a shame list, but as a learning log. He wrote, spent too much on dinner out. I was lonely that night. Skipped logging expenses. I was overwhelmed at work. Forgot my subscription renewed. Didn't set a reminder. Each note came with a reflection. Not, I'm bad at this, but what can I do with kindness next time? That's the shift. From shame to softness, from blame to curiosity, from what's wrong with me to what might help me next time. Eli created what he called his recovery budget, a plan he could gently return to after slipping. No zero-based perfection, just 3 steps. Pause, breathe, realign. He'd open his app, say out loud, I'm still allowed to try again, then adjust, move things, forgive the spending, rebuild. And slowly, something beautiful happened. His recovery got faster. His panic softened. He made room for human error. And in doing that, he stuck with budgeting longer than he ever had before. Because here's the truth, most systems forget. The secret to lasting change isn't discipline, it's repair. You will mess up, you'll forget, overspend, avoid, and you will return. Because budgeting isn't about getting it right, it's about coming back with care. Think of it like a trail in the woods. You walk it often, sometimes you wander off, but the trail is still there. And every time you return, it welcomes you, no scolding, no shame. You can be that trail for yourself. You can say, I made a mistake, and I am still someone who budgets, and I am still someone who tries, and I am still someone worthy of calm. Let's pause here and ask, what's your most recent money mistake? Not the number, not the transaction, but the feeling. Now gently name it, and imagine what kindness could sound like in response. Maybe it says it made sense in the moment. You were tired, you forgot, and that's okay. We'll adjust, together. In the end, Eli's budget wasn't perfect. It was flexible, forgiving, lived in. It had smudges, scribbles, and stories, and that made it real. In the next chapter, the final one, we'll meet someone who once thought budgeting was about control. But in the end, they found something deeper. That budgeting, when done gently, can lead you not just to security, but to freedom. Some people think freedom means never having to budget again. No spreadsheets, no plans, no categories. Just money always flowing, effortlessly, endlessly. But real freedom, the kind that soothes your nervous system, isn't about having no plan. It's about having a plan that feels like peace. Let's meet someone who found that out the long way. Her name is Leela. She used to avoid budgeting because it felt like control. Her childhood was full of strictness, tightly counted meals, harsh words about money, so anything that resembled structure made her feel small again. She told herself, "When I make enough, I won't need to think about money anymore." She thought freedom meant never having to say no. But when her income grew, so did her confusion. She had more money, but not more clarity. She earned more, but still felt stuck because she had no map. And no matter how fast you're driving, a car without direction just spins. So she tried budgeting again. This time, not as punishment, not as control, but as clarity. She asked herself, "What do I want to feel when I look at my money?" The answer surprised her. Not in control, not impressive, just free. So she built her budget like a compass. Not to trap herself, but to guide herself gently, toward the life she actually wanted. She created 3 sacred sections: safety, space, stretch. Safety was her roots, rent, food, the basics that gave her calm. Space was breathing room, her time, her margin, her small joys. Stretch was her forward motion, dreams, growth, generosity. She let these categories hold her. They weren't strict, they didn't shout, they just asked her softly, "Where are you heading?" Each Sunday, she did what she called her freedom check-in. She lit a candle, put on music, opened her budget, and asked, "Do I feel safe right now? Do I have space to rest this week? What's one small way I can stretch forward?" Sometimes the answer was, "I'm tired." Sometimes it was, "I'm okay." Sometimes it was, "I've been avoiding something important." But each time, she stayed. She didn't run. She made a small adjustment, a tiny choice, and slowly she began to trust herself. That's what budgeting gave her. Not perfection, not power, but permission. Permission to live on purpose, to spend in alignment, to save without fear. To ask her money to support the kind of life she actually wanted, not the one she thought she should want, Leela realized something big. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It's the integration of responsibility and joy. It's knowing where your money goes and feeling good about it. It's choosing to budget not because you have to, but because you love how it makes you feel. Grounded, present, capable, free. Let's pause for you. What does freedom mean to you? Not the fantasy kind, the soft kind. Is it being able to take a break when you're burned out? Is it saying yes to dinner with a friend without panicking after? Is it leaving a job that drains you because you've built a cushion of care? That kind of freedom starts small, with tiny choices, tiny plans, tiny promises kept to yourself. A budget can help you get there, not by locking you down, but by gently pointing you toward the life you've quietly wanted all along. So as we close this story, let this be the truth you carry with you. You are not bad with money. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are in a process. You are becoming someone who pays attention, someone who plans with love, someone who budgets to feel safe enough to choose. And that, dear listener, is freedom. Peaceful farewell tonight. You did something powerful. You didn't just listen to a budgeting guide, you stayed with yourself. You explored money, not as math, but as meaning. So rest now. Let it settle. No pressure to remember it all. Your nervous system heard it. Your heart felt it. And slowly, your life will begin to reflect it. You're not just learning about money, you're healing your story with it. And tomorrow, you get to begin again gently. It's late now. The light is softer. Maybe your eyes are heavy. Maybe your breath is slower than when we started. And somewhere between the stories and the stillness, something shifted. You listened to 15 chapters, each one a small window into a different kind of budgeting. Not the kind that scolds, not the kind that shames, but the kind that makes room for you exactly as you are. You heard from people like Devin and Sienna, Jordan and Camila. People who thought they were just bad with money. People who thought budgeting meant restriction until it meant permission. People who learned to track feelings, not just numbers. Who stopped running from their balance and started returning to themselves. And maybe, as you listened, you saw pieces of your own story reflected back. The late-night stress, the unopened bills, the guilt after comfort spending, the fear of looking, the trying and trying again, and through all of that, you kept showing up. Not with perfection, but with presence. And that matters more than you know. Because budgeting isn't about being good. It's about being with yourself. It's about asking softer questions. It's about designing a life that feels more like you. It's about building a future that holds your peace, not just your paychecks. Tonight, maybe you realized that you can't fail at budgeting. You can only forget and return. Forget and return. Again and again. And each time you return, you bring more of yourself with you. Your clarity, your compassion, your courage to choose softness over shame. So wherever you are in your money story, whether you're budgeting alone or with a partner, whether you're just starting or starting over, know this. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not too messy. You are not alone. You're just in the middle of becoming someone who budgets with love. And what a beautiful thing to become. So take this with you into sleep. You are allowed to build slow. You are allowed to rest while growing. You are allowed to enjoy your life while healing your habits. Your worth is not defined by your balance. Your softness is not a weakness. And your joy is not irresponsible, it's sacred. Let your budget reflect that. Let your life reflect that. Let your breath reflect that in and out, easy and light. We're proud of you. We're grateful you're here. And we'll be here again whenever you need us. For now, drift, float, exhale. Your story with money continues tomorrow, but for tonight, you're safe, you're home, you're free. If you'd like more sleep stories like this, we're here every night. Good night from Sleepy Financier. Fall asleep smarter, wake up softer. Come back tomorrow for more gentle money stories.